When archaeologists speak about the greatest mysteries of ancient Egypt, most people immediately think of the Great Pyramids of Giza or the legendary curse of Tutankhamun. Yet there is another mystery that has fascinated historians, archaeologists, and researchers around the world for more than 3,000 years. It is the story of a woman who was far more than the wife of a pharaoh. She became one of the most influential queens in human history. Her face is recognized by millions through the famous painted bust that is considered one of the greatest masterpieces of ancient art. But despite her worldwide fame, no one knows where her final resting place is. This is the story of Nefertiti, a queen who disappeared from history almost as mysteriously as she appeared. The name Nefertiti is usually translated as "the beautiful one has come." Even her name has inspired endless questions. Some historians believe she was born into an influential Egyptian family, while others suggest she may have been a foreign princess who arrived in Egypt through a royal marriage. To this day, neither theory has been proven. Many written records from that period have been lost, and later rulers deliberately erased much of the evidence from one of the most unusual chapters in Egyptian history. Nefertiti became the great royal wife of Pharaoh Akhenaten, one of the most controversial rulers ancient Egypt ever produced. Before his reign, Egyptians worshipped a vast pantheon of gods. The powerful priesthood of Amun controlled enormous temples and possessed tremendous political influence. Religion shaped nearly every aspect of daily life. Then everything changed. Akhenaten announced that the traditional gods should no longer stand at the center of Egyptian religion. Instead, he elevated Aten, the radiant sun disk, as the supreme deity. For one of the world's oldest civilizations, this was nothing less than a revolution. Imagine a kingdom whose traditions had remained unchanged for centuries. Suddenly, its ruler ordered temples to be closed, old rituals abandoned, and a completely new form of worship established. The priests, who had once held enormous power, saw their influence disappear almost overnight. To support his religious transformation, Akhenaten built an entirely new capital city in the desert. He named it Akhetaten, known today as Amarna. It became the heart of his new kingdom and the center of Aten worship. Throughout these extraordinary events, Nefertiti stood beside her husband. Ancient reliefs show something remarkable. Unlike most queens of Egypt, Nefertiti was portrayed almost as an equal to the pharaoh. She appeared in official ceremonies, offered sacrifices to the gods, welcomed foreign visitors, and participated in state rituals. In some scenes, she is even shown striking Egypt's enemies with a ceremonial weapon, a pose that had traditionally been reserved only for the king himself. For archaeologists, these images reveal that Nefertiti was far more than a ceremonial queen. Many researchers believe she played an important political role and may even have helped shape Akhenaten's religious reforms. Some historians suggest she advised the pharaoh during one of the most dramatic transformations in Egyptian history. If that is true, Nefertiti helped reshape an entire civilization. But then something extraordinary happened. Around the 12th year of Akhenaten's reign, Nefertiti's name suddenly began disappearing from official records. Only a short time earlier, artists had carved her image into temples and monuments across Egypt. She appeared beside the pharaoh in countless scenes. Then, almost without warning, the records fell silent. For historians, this became one of ancient Egypt's greatest unsolved mysteries. What happened to the queen? One theory suggests that Nefertiti died during an epidemic that may have swept through Egypt during those years. Some historical evidence hints that disease spread throughout the royal court, yet no direct proof of her death has ever been found. Another theory is even more fascinating. Some scholars believe Nefertiti did not disappear at all. Instead, they argue that she may have become Akhenaten's co-ruler under a different royal name. Female rulers were extremely rare in ancient Egypt, but history shows that they were not impossible. If this theory is correct, Nefertiti may even have ruled Egypt for a short period after Akhenaten's death, before power eventually passed to the young Tutankhamun. A third explanation points to politics rather than mystery. After Akhenaten died, Egypt's new rulers worked to erase nearly everything connected to his religious revolution. His temples were dismantled, statues destroyed, inscriptions erased, and monuments altered. The goal was to restore the old religious order as if the Amarna period had never existed. If this happened, much of the evidence about Nefertiti may have vanished along with it. But the greatest mystery is not how she lived. It is how she disappeared. Despite more than a century of archaeological exploration, no one has ever found the tomb of Queen Nefertiti. This seems almost unbelievable. Archaeologists have located the burial places of dozens of Egyptian pharaohs. They have uncovered tombs belonging to queens, princes, priests, and powerful officials. Even the long-lost tomb of Tutankhamun was eventually discovered. Yet the final resting place of one of the most famous women in history remains unknown. Why? Some archaeologists believe her tomb still lies hidden somewhere beneath the sands of the Valley of the Kings. Others think she may have been buried near the ancient city of Amarna, where she spent much of her life. There is even a theory suggesting that her burial chamber is concealed behind the walls of another royal tomb that has already been discovered but not yet fully understood. This last idea captured worldwide attention only a few years ago. Using advanced scanning technology, researchers detected unusual anomalies behind the walls of Tutankhamun's tomb. Some experts proposed that these irregularities might indicate the existence of a sealed chamber hidden beyond the painted walls. If they were right, the greatest archaeological discovery of the 21st century might be waiting only a few meters away. The possibility electrified the world. Newspapers published dramatic headlines. Television documentaries explored the theory. Archaeologists prepared for what many hoped would become one of history's greatest discoveries. Scientists returned with radar equipment, thermal imaging devices, and sophisticated scanning systems, determined to learn whether another hidden chamber truly existed. Millions of people waited for the results, hoping that after more than 3,000 years, one of ancient Egypt's greatest mysteries was finally about to be solved. But the deeper researchers examined the walls of Tutankhamun's tomb, the more cautious their conclusions became. The first scans did reveal unusual areas that seemed to suggest the presence of hidden spaces. Some experts were convinced that sealed passageways lay behind the thin layers of plaster. If this proved to be true, humanity could witness an archaeological discovery as significant as the original opening of Tutankhamun's tomb itself. But science is built on evidence, not assumptions. Additional investigations were carried out using more advanced technology. Independent teams of specialists carefully analyzed the data and compared their results. In the end, most researchers concluded that there was still no convincing evidence proving the existence of hidden chambers behind the walls. For many people, this was a disappointment. The hope of solving one of ancient Egypt's greatest mysteries seemed to fade once again. Yet the search never stopped. Every year, archaeologists continue to explore Egypt's ancient landscape. Modern technology now allows researchers to investigate archaeological sites without damaging them. Satellites scan the desert from space, ground-penetrating radar searches beneath the sand. Three-dimensional laser mapping records monuments in incredible detail, while digital imaging reveals structures invisible to the naked eye. What seemed impossible only a few decades ago has now become a normal part of archaeological research. Thanks to these remarkable advances, dozens of previously unknown ancient structures have already been discovered across Egypt. For that reason, many experts remain optimistic that Nefertiti's tomb may one day finally be found. But why is her burial place considered so important? The answer lies in who she truly was. Unlike most royal women of her time, Nefertiti appears to have held extraordinary influence. Ancient reliefs do not simply show her standing beside the pharaoh. They depict her participating in sacred ceremonies, receiving foreign visitors, rewarding officials, and taking part in important religious rituals. In several scenes, she even wears the royal crown normally reserved for a ruling pharaoh. To historians, these images suggest that her political authority was far greater than previously believed. If her tomb has survived untouched, it could contain thousands of priceless artifacts capable of transforming our understanding of ancient Egypt. Imagine archaeologists opening a sealed doorway that has remained closed for more than 3,000 years. Beyond it could lie magnificent golden jewelry, royal seals, ceremonial objects, beautifully preserved furniture, rare papyrus scrolls, and inscriptions describing events that history has almost completely forgotten. Yet the greatest treasure would not be gold. It would be knowledge. Ancient Egyptians carefully recorded many important events on stone monuments and papyrus scrolls. If documents of this kind still exist inside Nefertiti's tomb, they could answer questions that historians have debated for more than a century. Who was Nefertiti before she became queen? Where did she come from? How deeply was she involved in Akhenaten's religious revolution? Did she rule Egypt after his death? Why did her name suddenly disappear from official records? And finally, how and where did her life come to an end? To this day, none of these questions has a definitive answer. Archaeology often resembles an enormous puzzle with countless missing pieces. Researchers recover fragments of history, one discovery at a time, gradually rebuilding the past. But the older the civilization, the more pieces have been lost forever. The story of Nefertiti is one of those puzzles. Over the years, many fascinating theories have emerged. Some researchers believe that her mummy has already been discovered but incorrectly identified. Others suggest that she still rests somewhere within the Valley of the Kings, hidden in a tomb that has yet to be uncovered. There are even theories proposing that her remains were secretly moved during periods of political unrest in ancient Egypt. However, none of these ideas has been confirmed. Science demands evidence. That is why every new archaeological expedition attracts worldwide attention. Sometimes a single fragment of a wall, a broken seal, or a forgotten inscription can completely change historians' understanding of an entire period. Another mystery surrounds the famous bust of Nefertiti. Today it is regarded as one of the greatest masterpieces of ancient art. Millions of visitors admire it every year, fascinated by its remarkable beauty, elegant proportions, and astonishing craftsmanship. Yet even this iconic sculpture keeps its own secrets. When archaeologists uncovered it in 1912 during excavations at Amarna, they were amazed by its exceptional state of preservation. It seemed almost impossible that a work of art more than 3,000 years old could survive in such extraordinary condition. Researchers later determined that the bust had been created in the workshop of the royal sculptor Thutmose. Most experts believe it served as a model for artists creating official portraits of the queen. One detail has puzzled historians for generations. The left eye of the bust contains its beautifully crafted quartz inlay. The right eye is missing. Why was it never completed? No one knows. Some scholars believe the sculpture simply remained unfinished. Others suggest that it served as a teaching model for apprentice artists. More imaginative explanations continue to appear, but none has been supported by convincing evidence. The more archaeologists learn about Nefertiti, the more extraordinary her story becomes. Even after more than 3,000 years, she continues to influence the modern world. Her image inspires artists, filmmakers, writers, historians, and millions of people fascinated by ancient Egypt. Books are written about her. Documentaries explore her life. New discoveries constantly revive the debate surrounding her mysterious disappearance. Yet despite all of this attention, no one can say with certainty where she was buried. Perhaps the answer has been waiting beneath the sands of Egypt all along. Perhaps her tomb lies only a short distance from monuments that archaeologists have already explored. Or perhaps it was destroyed long ago, taking its greatest secrets with it forever. History has repeatedly shown that the most astonishing discoveries often happen when they are least expected. At the beginning of the 20th century, many experts believed that every royal tomb had already been found or looted. Then Howard Carter uncovered the nearly untouched tomb of Tutankhamun, forever changing our understanding of ancient Egypt. Who can say what discovery awaits the next generation? Every archaeological season reveals something new. Hidden temples emerge from beneath the desert. Forgotten workshops are uncovered. Ancient statues return to the light after thousands of years. Lost cemeteries appear where no one expected them. Each discovery reminds us that Egypt has not yet revealed all of its secrets. That is why the story of Nefertiti remains one of the most fascinating mysteries of the ancient world. She was a queen who lived during one of Egypt's most dramatic periods, helped shape an extraordinary chapter of history, disappeared under mysterious circumstances, and left behind questions that still remain unanswered. Perhaps one day archaeologists really will discover her tomb. Perhaps behind a sealed doorway they will find artifacts that have rested in complete darkness for more than 3,000 years. And when that day comes, humanity may finally learn the truth about one of history's most remarkable women. Until then, Nefertiti remains one of ancient Egypt's greatest unsolved mysteries, a timeless symbol of a civilization that continues to captivate the imagination of the world and reminds us that the past still holds countless secrets waiting to be uncovered.